Boom, there we go. Cool. So yeah, these aren't actually set up to be like an hour or anything like that. Like some are literally like 5 minutes, some are maybe we go into like 20, but we'll usually get through whatever bigger question, bigger worry you have, and kind of give you hopefully a better perspective of it. This is recorded, just so you know. I just record them all, but you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, can you see my screen really quick? Sorry about all this shit on here. I just had to call someone, so I was going through some stuff. But what did you want to deal with? Did you have like a markup or something? Did you want to do it top down with me? How did you want to go about
yeah,
today?
if we could do it top down together, please.
Sure. Do you have any specific market you want to look at? Because I'll do that.
1 second, let me just load up my trading view.
You can see my screen, right? It's good.
Yeah. I can see your screen.
Nice.
We could do gold. Actually, no. GJ.
GJ? Alright, let's do some G.
I had a markup.
So let's start from the beginning, right? Let's just talk it through. Do you want to be the one that marks up, and then I will comment on it?
No, you could. If you could mark up, please, so I could see, like, live 1-to-1, please.
Okay, sure. I'll mark it up the way I would mark something up, right? So again, when I look at this, I can go through the larger time frames, but honestly, you don't even need to, right? Because the lower time frames are going to be having so much more difference in switch ups, right? Versus the higher, that the higher are not really going to be important, but I still think it's important to kind of check out where you are, right? So most recently, you could have probably seen this break here, right? In which case you would have been looking for these sell stops to be met with whatever structures here. That fails, which means now we've put in a bearish structure from where? Right here, right? So that's coming from here. If you want to, you can find the MantaFX block, the large one, which is this one, very simply. So you know that this entire move here is mitigation of it. And you know that probably over a longer enough time, like over the next 20 years, 40 years, we're going to continue making a move to come and mitigate more of this MantaFX block and start clearing more liquidity before we go short, right? So overall, like, there's nothing crazy that I would do here on the monthlies and stuff, but, you know, just kind of see where you are. So basically understanding that, you know, we're heading deeper probably up in the here. We know that this move right here, this displacement, this break of structure is being met with now the test of those S&D zones right here. And now we're probably looking to come and take off to the highs up here ultimately, right? So long term, we're probably going to be targeting these highs. So, you know, don't take my word for it, but 40-30 years from now, you should see this continue to possibly continue this up move, right? To continue taking out highs. So nothing crazy, but overall very somewhat bullish, even though the move itself is bearish, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So zoom in here. Great. So let's take a look at the last few actual months. Very clear bullish last few months. That bullish months came from pretty much this break of structure, right? Very simple. And we can go ahead and recognize this as a MantaFX block, which we can then go ahead and refine in the future. But ultimately, if we do begin to have pullbacks, those pullbacks will be met with a move into here. So if we do start to see a reason to break down a lower time frame, like so, we know that that break is more likely than not going to make its way down into these imbalances here and into the liquidity of this low, and this low. And if we take a look at price right now, just on a basis of targeting, we would have been targeting possibly this low, which has actually just been taken out. So the next target kind of becomes this low right here, right? You see that? So again, the targets ultimately of what's inside here, if we're going to see this pullback, is going to be this low, then this low, then this low. So over a longer period of time, you can have these areas drawn in like that and just say, okay, we're probably going to target that low before we target this high, which means, you know, anytime price gets somewhere up here, it's going to be nice sells. Price gets down here, there could actually be nice buys right now to come up, right? But right now it's nothing too important on these higher time frames. Like, we don't really see anything. We know there's some kind of structural point in here that's holding this move up. So this is still actually a protected low on some time frame, and we'll go take a look at that in a second. But ultimately, all these highs have been holding, right? Holding. So at this point, there's a good reason to come and take out some lows, some sell stops before continuing that bullish move, whether it's just this sell stop or this one, and this one, and then continuing bullish. You see that? So we're just thinking about it in terms of how do we hold the move if we want to continue holding it. Sorry. All right, there we go. So let's get rid of these. There we go. Very nice. So again, that's a much higher time frame. It's not, there's nothing too much important for us there to deal with. And again, you can see how very quickly, like, the reality of what's going on here doesn't really matter. Like, this price could by all means come even deeper, like into here, and then still be bullish from there. I mean, if it did, it would be more likely to come and take out this low, but right now the most protected low is this one off of this break of structure right here. So ultimately, like, the move we're looking to come and fill is this ment effects block. So that's why I think that at least on the short term, this right here is actually a great target right there. So even though, you know, we don't know if it's going to come all the way down into here and we don't know where it's going to stop, it's good to basically say, you know, I have this high and this low. This low is more likely to be hit before this high. Why? Because, well, we just created this ment block. We're heading higher, and there's a good chance we start to come and mitigate parts of that, right? We can get rid of all this stuff because I don't want to concentrate my charts with a lot of shit. I like to keep them relatively clean, but overall, we understand we're pretty much bullish, and we could be heading for some of the lows here. So let's go down to a weekly now, take a look where we are. Very simply now, we can see that this was that bullish break of structure right there. And this entire move back has been to target, just like we just saw that on the monthly, has been to target the lows put in place, right? So we had low, 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 all stacking orders, and then clear, 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 and clear. So what's the next probable move? It's going to be to clear this low and potentially, honestly, it already cleared this low, but it's probably looking for something in here. I don't think it'll clear this one, but ultimately, I mean, this actually was a great liquidity grab. We might be just testing this liquidity grab to keep going bullish here. You see that? And we're also creating this start of a ton of highs here. So there's a good chance that actually this might be the area where we start to go bullish. And if you take a look at the 50% of this wick, which we understand on a lower time frame is a demand zone, then we're very well testing that. And now basically, like, there's about what is this? An hour and 38 minutes until this week ends, right? So I mean, based on how this ends, this could, if this kind of ends in here, we know there's a lot of buying up going here. And there's a good chance that next week we kind of like almost open here. Like, we could open with a, you know, like a jump. That's how that would happen. That's how jumps happen, basically. They just accumulate over the weekend because they have over-the-counter trades, right? So this could be a target, but it's honestly shifting somewhat bullish. So we can actually expect that the next week or so could be actually bullish, at least to fulfill maybe like this imbalance, right? Oh, wait, no, there's no imbalance there. We'll look at that in a lower time frame in a second, sorry. All right, so let's get rid of these now. There we go. And let's go and take a look inside of this ment block, because we know that this whole ment block has been being mitigated, right? 50% of it is around there. Being mitigated, 50% of that is around there. So we can take a look at what's inside there that might be looking to be mitigated, right? And as we get lower, we can look at, basically we know this wick took this low, but also it barely took it. So there's a good chance that we have a good stack up of liquidity here. So I still wouldn't be bullish on this until pretty much we start breaking more highs. Instead, I'd probably say that we are going to come and run this low again, and we could target, for instance, a refined demand zone like this one, right? That's one way we could start looking at this. So now we have an idea that we want to target these lows starting next week, right? So that's how I'd be kind of looking at this. And again, as we zoom out, it's again putting everything into motion as we normally talk about stuff. So like we have the lower low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, and now we're looking for that to continue, but we're asking ourselves, where can that happen from? Is it ready or is it not? I don't think it's ready yet, but again, you know, if we're wrong, we're going to see it start to unfold to the top side, in which case we can basically change up our bias, as you know, and begin to be a part of that bullish move, right? On the way down, there's been great breaks of structure down that you could have been a seller at, seller at, seller at, seller at.
Yeah, I caught that move.
These were a lot of sells in here. Like, we were talking about this for a while. Basically, we knew that all this here was pretty much fake demand zones. Why? Well, because this impulse here was created by, first of all, this low, and secondly, the impulses inside of it, this structure here. After this got taken, there's no reason for this one to hold, right? So we know when this happens, it's one of those ideas where it's a fake demand zone. So even though it held for a few days, which you could have easily caught on a lower time frame, we understand why it's still taking us to the lower. And it just hit this supply zone right here. Hit it, perfect little liquidation of a day, right? You can just see it in the candles. So great distribution there. Comes take out that high, breaks back down, comes up, tests that UTAD inside of there with that wick, breaks down, and now again we're creating a bearish trend, right? Holding, 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 holding. So what's the next move? It's probably going to come, hold this, and continue this bearish push to target this and this potentially, right? See that? So we're just looking for targets, and we're looking for how it's going to continue. Okay, great. So we know the daily has been pretty bearish, and we know that it has been bearish ever since this got tapped. And that means that if this is the bearish move, the target of that bearish move is this low, which is now coming into the bias here, which is to come here, right? So either we come here and just blow through it, or we come here and then accumulate, but overall we want to see it kind of make its way into here, right? Very simple. Let's go down to a 4 hour now. We can start to take a look at this. There's our distribution, right? BC, AR, ST, sign of weakness in phase B, UT, UTAD, breakdown, test, and then it's distributing right now. And currently with that distribution, we basically saw this larger structural break. Whoops. We saw this larger structural break right here. That whole thing was a structure breakdown, and then we had this SND zone left behind, which is this MEMP block, which has gotten tested. But we left behind a tiny bit here, so this could function as liquidity. So what I would say is this is a nice POI to sell from, to look for sells from. But also because of this break, we have new POIs being established currently, basically inside of whatever's here. Like there's this hidden one, but you can just be easy about it and say there's a demand zone right there. So ultimately, of course, we can go and refine these because I don't like having too large of areas. Just taking a look at it, there's this one. And we have equal highs just below it. So there's actually a good chance that you can refine it like that. And if you see a good reason to go short there on a 1 minute or 5 minute, fantastic. Otherwise, if we take a look right here, we have this move come in, come down, comes to liquidate that high just by a little bit, touches it, drops off, stops, drops off, and honestly, as this zone and this zone. So I would probably not even refine it to just that zone. I'd refine it to this whole area here. But those are nice areas that I'd probably look to sell from. I like those. And we can get rid of that because we know that's no longer important. So basically the bias is either we come and meet this low right here, in which case this is all canceled. Otherwise, we come here or here and we can look for selling pressure. And then again, as we sell into that, we look to partial pretty quickly and still can hold all the way down. Same thing here. We get in, we can look to partial at lows and then look to take that all the way down because that's where we believe price will head based on that higher time frame. So if we're wrong, then we're going to come and test in here and probably just go bullish, in which case we'll catch small moves off here that will lead us to partials and we'll continue breaking higher. And if they do, then we can already begin to, these sells right here even can become part of the buys that will come to take price higher. See that? So again, just creating a story for myself about what's going on. If I was to be trading this, then that's what I'd be probably looking at. And I mean, like as we get lower, we can just take a look at what's happening on a 5 minute. Even here, even though this looks like a break of structure, you have to recognize that this, again, is coming from this move here. So the MEMP block is this one, and 50% of it is around here. So we've actually tested that perfectly, and we're still bearish. So again, all we're doing is, right, bearish, bearish, bearish. We're still targeting these lows. There's no reason to continue thinking this is a break of structure. Why? Because this is an intermediary fake structure that was already broken and then targeted as liquidity, broken and then broken again, and now we're bearish again. And that bearish move is coming from here and from here, because on a higher time frame, this whole thing has been caused by this move, which means that's why we're looking at this POI or this one right here, just a refined one. And that's why also we're looking at this POI, because it's taking into account the fact that that's been responsible for this break here. So either way, we want to kind of be bearish. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to get all the way up here. It's probably even better to use this MEMP block and then maybe even refine like that. So incorporating this MEMP block with the higher area, because you understand that just because we get above these highs doesn't mean we're invalidated, right? So if you do this, there's a chance you get faked out because you think it's going bullish now since it's breaking, but actually it's still holding the overall MEMP block. But we're not using the overall one because if we did have a pullback, it makes a lot more sense to head for the inside one. You see what I'm doing there? So it's kind of it's kind of our own drawn-in MEMP block. So these are like the two areas that you could have, which means basically at the start of the week, we've just kind of taken these lows, right? And just like we said, there's a good chance that it opens a little bit higher. They're accumulating on these lows. So, I mean, this is still very, very bearish. And this whole bearish move is still being held from like this high, or even you could argue these highs. But basically breaks of those puts in basically day trading where we can start to be bullish into those highs like that. So basically, you know, that's what I'd be looking for. But there's no question that this could easily come a little bit lower. Take out more sell stops below this, because remember, people don't just put stops right there and right there. They sometimes put them 10-15 pips under, so there's a good chance we still come to target some more of those, right? That's how we think about it. Liquidity, where's it resting, how do we go and target it, right? Beautiful. So overall, that's pretty much it. That's how I would top down the GJ. I'd say we're targeting this. We're probably targeting this still as a liquidity low rather than a protected low. I don't think it's ready to go. If you think about this low, when it was made, never came to target the actual high, holding this move down, which means it's pretty much still gonna hold itself downwards, right? So in my mind, start of the week, buys up into this area could be okay. Got to be a little careful because again, it's counter trend and this could easily still keep just dropping off. But you know, if a good bullish intent was put in, and then you had a nice confirmation off Wyckoff in there, great to take up into here or here as partials and targets, right? And then you always leave a little bit on in case this is a protected low and it wants to target highs, highs, and highs, right? In case it wants to fully switch, but highly unlikely because probability wise, you know, we're still holding that bearish move. So that's how I'd look at this overall, right? And I mean, just looking at this, you could go ahead and actually just refine this to this. This makes a lot more sense right here. I hate the fact it's equal highs, but this is a nice area to look, right? So even if you see price do this, come above it, but hold these highs, you know that you can pretty much think about this high right here as its own stop hunt instead of a break of structure. So you know that even though it looks like it's breaking structure, it's probably going to hold that move down. You see that?
Yeah.
So that would be my top down on GJ then overall. That's how I'd look at it. It's my just general thought process on that. Yep. I like this area for sell, basically, this area for sells, and on lower time frames when we get those bullish moves in, which we don't have yet at all, I'd look for the bullish moves up. So right now, if I was actually like watching this as a day trader, I'd still be probably looking at this area here as a sell opportunity. You see? So there's a good chance that we're not done with these sell stops like we just said. And if we do get a sell here, we just keep targeting lows. So even though, you know, we still have a big reason to come up here and we've just taken sell stops, so there's a good chance we finally what is it? Fucking pull back, reverse. There's also a good chance that we can keep grabbing more and we distribute in here and we can catch a distribution down, and whether it becomes a reaccumulation or whether it runs, we can secure profit on these moves here, right? So that's how I think basically. But if, you know, gun to my head, this is where I'd look for continuation sells. Otherwise, I'd just say, you know, forget this, wait for a nice reason to go bullish, wait for that bullish intent to be put in place to get back up into these areas and these areas, which you can then go ahead and refine further, like up here or even to this last point here, which I really wouldn't. I mean, now that I'm here again, like this place is just too good. I love how the equal highs are just above it, but again, incorporate it because again, if price gets here and then reverses, you shouldn't be confused. And then again, as price does reverse, you should already be considering the new supply zones being formed as the continuations down. You see that?
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that's my top down on GJ then. That's how I'd be looking at it. Those are the specific areas. Again, like you can get even crazier with it, you know, get a lot lower and begin to say, okay, well, we know we want to be bullish up into there, but so far, even like on a 15 second, it's very bearish. It just, even right now, if you want to day trade this mem block just got tested with a beautiful schematic, I think. Yep, you can see it without me zooming in. Beautiful schematic,
yeah.
Take that down, and you're right now targeting, again, these lows. You're still looking for those to be taken out, because we're still bearish, right? So if you were day trading this, again, you know why this is bearish. It can easily change up and go bullish, but you know that this bearishness is being met because we're still running sell stops on that much higher time frame, and those sell stops are being ran to potentially have that larger pullback into the larger areas down here, which is why, again, we always top down even if we're trading the super low time frames, right? You don't need to, but it gives you a much better perspective of what's going. Like we can easily be on a 1 second here without any reason to even check the hires. It loads, there we go, without any reason to check the hires, and we can look at this and say, okay, we want to sell up here or we can sell in here, which is already working out. But this is going to create times for you where you may be right, and you can secure some RR if you're actually managing very aggressively. But sometimes when you are wrong, you can be very confused about why you're wrong. Like if price came here, took it out, and then kept going way bearish, you'd be like, what the fuck's going on? I thought it, and it breaks through all these areas where you wanted to buy from. Why is it happening? Just understanding at the same time that you're still in this very, very big bearish push that's still being protected by these highs is why this is still being held. And even though it's looking like it's breaking structure on that lower time frame, that bearish structure is still holding on that higher, right? So that's the only reason that I say that, if you want to be on one time frame and not look at higher, don't get super confused when one gets taken out or liquidated. And you're sitting there going, like, oh, what the fuck? I never get my zones right. But in reality, it's just not looking at multiple time frames. And that's the idea of having, for instance, this area here and this area here. When you're looking at this area and, for instance, it takes it out, and then it gets here and you're already bullish because it's taking out an area, it doesn't make sense to, right? Because you're still holding bearish. And again, there's going to be times where, for instance, a move like this gets taken out and then goes bearish, and you're like, but why didn't it come here? And again, you got to realize it's because you went ahead and refined, right? If you had it unrefined to the actual mem block, there's a good chance you would have gotten it. But sometimes, we sacrifice the probability of an area for better RR and better confirmation, which means that we also might not get it, right? But yeah, does that make sense for GJ then, right there?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, of course. No problem at all. But does that help? Is there any like crazy questions, or were we somewhat
No,
the
no, no,
same?
not really. No. I had some of those zones marked up before.
Yep.
When you're on the weekly, I think that
Mhm.
that needs to be taken out. So yeah,
Yep.
literally, I think about one. Let me go and check mine quickly. Sorry, one sec. Yeah, yes. I think the last one I've got marked up is about around 149.00.
149.00. Pretty
So I
low.
think it's the
Pretty
So
low.
I think that's the last. Pardon?
I thought it's pretty low.
Yeah, but yeah. No, thank you for that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course.
I just want to ask you a quick question. In terms of like day trading,
Yep.
do you trade multiple times each day,
A
or are you more
lot
of a
less
swing
now.
trader?
I used to do a lot of that, and again, like it wouldn't just be like plus 10 plus 10. It'd be like -1 BE plus 0.5 plus 0.5 plus 0.5 plus 2 -1, right? Like stuff like that. I used to a lot. Now it's more just content creation, working in here with you guys, one-on-ones and stuff like that. So, um, not so much swing, but I now look at very few points, like refined points, and just kind of wait. I have no reason to just like be on there constantly. Like instead of so I'd just be waiting for this point or that point instead of going in here and waiting for that bullish structure and catching all that on the way up, because there's still stuff you catch up here on the way up here, right? Like if we even just go like this and take a look at that 1 minute, I mean, like you can see break structure, SND zones, great entries, right? Breaks the structure, doesn't get as low, it's fine. Break a structure, boom, SND zone, great entries. Break structure, boom, SND zones, right? There's so many
Yeah,
ways you could have taken all this all the way up. And again, not all of them will give you confirmation, but even if we take a look at this SND zone right here and just take a look at what actually surpassed right here on like a 15-second, right? Like there's your Wyckoff. And again, I work a little differently in terms of how I wait for tests. I don't actually like wait for this sign of strength and then wait for the test. I kind of just get involved on the actual structural break. So there's buy stops already here. And honestly, on this move, even though it goes higher, this is already a break even. And the after a partial up here, right, above highs. And then all of a sudden, I'm just not even in this move anymore, even though it looks like, it's a great move. Because I have a very aggressive way of partialing, which works for me. But that's how like I used to do stuff as well, right, back in the day on the lowers.
right, cool.
Yep, but that's again
No
like
worries.
fully up to you. Like as you see, there's no difference between whether we're on that 5 minute or that monthly. The only difference is going to take a lot longer, right? Because like I
Yeah,
actually had this talk with someone. They're like, "Oh, but the lower switches around too much." I'm like, the truth is, imagine right now, this right here is a seconds time frame. Okay, well look at this second time frame. Like it's literally switching around from bullish to bearish into bullish into bearish, like back and forth, and big bearish into smaller bullish into the potential bearish, right? And the reality is, if you look up here, oh, it's a weekly, right? But this could just as easily be a 1 second chart zoomed out. And again, it's the same thing. You have the big bullish into the short-term bearish, which is now meeting that bigger term bullish, which is probably now going to push up into this bearish, come down a little bit and keep going bullish, right? But the idea is that this is going to happen in about 2 minutes. The other one's going to happen in about 40 years, 60 years, right? So like,
yeah,
that's the only difference.
yeah. I get you. I get you.
Yep.
I get you. Well, thank you very much for your time today, Anton. I really appreciate it.
No problem, dude. Thanks for scheduling.
No worries.